Hello, hello, hello. Papa and I are making a video together today, and it is wonderful and sunny. It is Thanksgiving today, and we are giving thanks to the blue God, the infinite cosmos out there, the blue God. So, and we want to bring to the public that you have to bring your animals in the house, okay? Your cats and dogs and pigs and whatever. If you have like one animal from as a farm animal, you can bring that animal either in the house or you can house train pigs. So I saw a whole lot of videos on that, and pigs are really clean when you wash them, as that goes with every living being, humans too. And so we need to be clean. We have to have our animals clean and ourselves and our house, and we have to declutter, and we have to make space, and we can rearrange things. If you have an extra garage or something, you can heat that garage. You can bring your farm animals in the garage so that they can stay warm. And if your power is out, which is the case with a lot of people right now because of the heavy storms caused by global warming, caused by CO2 and methane gas emissions, it's a fact. Okay. So if you have no electricity, there are ways to heat your garage and your house. And you can look this up on YouTube. There are people that have shown how to do this. You buy ceramic pottery, like ceramic pots, like just terracotta planter, like this size. It's terracotta planter. It doesn't even have to have an enamel on the outside. Those are more expensive. So just get a simple terracotta planter to plant something in it, to put potting soil in it. It already has a hole on the bottom. So, but don't put potting soil in it. Use this as a heater. So you buy two of those. And I forgot now exactly in which detail they have done it. It's been a while that I have watched those videos, but you can find it. Terracotta planter self-made heater. If you put this into Google search, you will get articles and you will get the videos to go with that. So you buy two of those. They're not expensive. You buy cheap paraffin candles. You can get them at the 99-cent store or the Dollar Tree store. The thick ones, you put that inside. You set that right in the middle on the bottom, and you light it, and the candle will heat up that terracotta planter pot. Okay, and it will generate a lot of heat, and it will heat the entire room. If you have a small room, it will heat that faster. If you have a large room, you can get two or three or more. Okay, you put them by the window. Make sure there's no curtain somewhere that can get into the candle. So you have to make sure that any kind of combustible material is out of the way. Curtains and drapes and blinds and dried plants or Christmas trees or whatever. Make sure that is out of the range. Okay? You also don't want sparks to fly into something like a dried material or something. So you want to make sure this is all clear and no other clutter is around. And you put this onto, we have this really large window frame counter. So that's the best. You have a large window frame counter, you put that on that near the window. Or you can also put that, for example, into the sink in the kitchen. That makes it very safe. And then you want to put the other pot on top of, so you line them up, the rims, so that the other pot is upside down on the other pot that's open like this, and the other pot comes down like this. So, and line it up to make sure that it doesn't slide off. So, and to have that in a sink would be very helpful, because if that slides off, it doesn't fall on anyone. So, and then because they have a little hole, like about the size on the top, then the heat expansion has a release there. And so, but these two pots are going to heat up very hot, and it's going to function just like a heater, or just like a stone oven, one of these really ancient stone ovens that they had in Germany. And I've seen these, and I because I lived in Berlin, in one of those really old apartments, in these really old, like 150-year-old buildings. And they were like 4 stories already, but they were like really, really, was a real old staircase frame, and they had these really, really old antique enamel tile ovens in each of these apartments. There were like charcoal or wood chip ovens, where you can put pieces of chopped wood into it, or charcoals, and it will heat the house up for many, many hours, because the whole oven heats up the material, this cement tile material heats up. And the same with these terracotta pots. So they will heat up. They're not as big, but they will heat up, and they will give heat. And so you can get several of those and do this in different locations. And it might be also helpful to get a metal bucket. I don't know if they sell those still. They used to sell those metal buckets. If you can get a metal bucket that doesn't have a coating on it, just a metal bucket. Or you can also use a very, very large cooking pot, and then you put the terracotta planter inside of that, and the other half on top. So, and then if that slides off, it just falls onto the cooking pot. It doesn't fall on any animal, or fall on your feet, or break something. So that would be good too. And then that metal bucket would also be heated up by this process. It's like it gives several layers of material that can actually be heated up by this process. So it's an extra, it's like a doubling effect. So I would definitely do this. And you can also do this in a garage, in a safe place, high up, and some kind of, you can have this whole thing with the metal bucket, have that in some place where the animals can't get to, and where it's safe, where the fire can't ignite anything. So have that somewhere where it's completely safe. And then always keep an eye on that situation, of course. And bring your farm animals into the garage, and give them hay and straw and pellet food. And so I'm trying to just think about all these ways right now to make it through the winter without suffering. I have seen farm animals suffer. It was horrific. I just want to tell this story because I want people to know. I want people to know that farm animals cannot be left outside. We went hiking with our former dog, and he was like, I don't know when was that? That was like 10 years ago. No, it was, yeah, something like 10 years ago. And we went hiking on our favorite hiking trail, and several miles into the trail, we come past this. We can past this. It's like an old abandoned barn, and there were no. I mean, there were windows, but it was all busted out and it was open, and there was no hay or straw in it. And someone had decided they let some Peruvian farmers. I don't know why that happened, but they were working for those farmers, I guess, Peruvian people, and they, they don't know. They had a little trailer there where they're staying to watch over the farm animals, but these farm animals, a lot of sheep and goats, and they were just out there on that pasture, and some of them were inside of that barn trying to get warm, but there was no warmth, so it was a very cold winter. And we looked at them and we felt really sorry for these animals, and we just wondered, well, how did these animals get to this? And that's a wildlife sanctuary. They weren't supposed to be grazing animals brought there by a farmer. So there was some kind of corruption deal that one of the people in the local government had done. And so we see three goats all like next to one another, laid out there. And they were breathing very heavily, but they couldn't get up or anything. They were very, very, very sick. And I looked at these goats, and my husband did too. And I put my hand on the forehead of each goat just to give them a little bit comfort. That's all I knew what to do in this moment. And I cried, and I felt so horrific. And we kept going. We kept going, walking away, and because our friend was already walking farther away, and it was horrible. I can't even concentrate. So it was absolutely horrible. I hate these terrible things that we have come across. So we walked on. We walked in that loop. We walked back to the car. We drove home, and I researched this. I found out what happened there and who did this, and was because of corruption. Luckily, because I had done a whale event, I for Sarah Vaughan, I had a whole list of, and I had not just the whale people, but also had a whole list because we did environmental work for the local stewardship group. I had a whole list of those people that they were probably not even supposed to send around, but the lady that was running it is probably, I think, an alcoholic and wasn't paying attention, so she accidentally released all of these like thousands of emails from different people that were sort of, friends of that local stewardship group and so on, and sponsors and people in the local government and so on. And so I had this list of people, and since I'm not a journalist, so I was even barred from the local newspaper because corruption again. They don't want activists writing anything there. So, and I had brief encounters with few journalists trying to get them on board to cover this. They would just flat out refuse. And so what I did is I just wrote a long round letter to inform the people all over what's going on with those goats. And so then I heard people say they have winter disease, and just it's dismissed the whole case. It's just winter disease. You know what winter disease is? You can get it too. If someone leaves you out there in a t-shirt in the winter, you get a winter disease and you will die for sure. And it's not going to be pleasant. Okay, and that's what they did to those goats. They don't have very thick coat. Those goats, so they left these goats there to die from hypothermia and all the hypothermia related body going into a frenzy, suffering, tremendous suffering. And I believe these three goats died. They were already dying. And the other goats were shivering and suffering horrifically. So you don't want that to happen to your dogs, cats, or farm animals, or children, or yourselves. Okay, so do something about this. That's my message. And so there was just one animal rights activist lady who responded to this round letter from thousands of people that I had sent it to. Only one caring person responded and said, "This is an atrocity. All of this is horrific. And well, thank you for sending the round letter. And let's do something about this. Let's bring this up." I brought this subject up at the Animal Coalition, which didn't work out. And people didn't take that into consideration. For the most of these people probably just wanted grant money. It's always about them instead of what are we actually making this animal coalition group for. So Paul and I left eventually because it wasn't going anywhere. We tried with different things. We tried to help everywhere we could, but most people we encountered were just in it for themselves. It was just about greed for them. And it was very eye opening for me. That was a very shocking realization, about that most people are in it for their own self-aggrandization, their own selfish glorification, money, grant collecting, even corrupt deals, and so on and on and on and on and on and on. And there are more stories. I'm not going to get into it now. It's just kept going on and on and on and on like this, actually. This was not one single incident. So, and wherever we went, it was like this, wherever we went. And so that's why I'm saying, I'm not trying to be negative and saying, oh, humanity sucks or something. No, I'm just giving the clear picture of it. Okay, so I'm just trying to shake people up and get them to understand that if you consider yourself to be a caring person and responsible citizen on this planet, then you better become aware of your own selfishness, your own laziness, your own corruptibility, and so on, and do something about it. Meditate, become aware of the living beings around you. This is not just about money shifting back and forth. Something actually has to be done too. We also have to be active. It's not like, oh, I gave them $100. Now that's all I can do. That's not all you can do, okay? If they just take the money and also have the same attitude and say, oh, thank you for the grant money, so let's just buy ourselves a new car. We'll just write it off as um, our organization expense or inventory expense. That's what people do, instead of actually going out there and helping these animals. Nobody helped these animals, but like we went back checking on them like a week or so later, and the animals were no longer there. So someone, maybe another good person who didn't respond but took action, actually, was, bringing this to the attention of different people in the local government, and they actually saw this doesn't look good. This does not look good. Too many people know about this. No, it's always when someone looks over their shoulders that they then come out of their complacency, a little bit. So someone looks over their shoulders, they get a little bit uncomfortable. So that's why I'm saying we need to look over these people. We need to look over everybody's shoulders and see what are they doing. Okay, are they doing anything? Is anything done, or is this just money being shifted around? So do something about it. Bring this, write letters. It doesn't fizzle out into nowhere. A letter is important, okay? A letter can shift mountains, and that has been the case with the letters I have written in my life, okay? So no letter went unnoticed. Okay? It's very important to write letters, to get involved, to do something, to look over someone else's shoulder. Many, many, many times this was the case, where I first thought, oh, this isn't going anywhere, but I do it anyway. And then it did do something in the end. And I was very, very glad that something was done. We have to help. Everyone has to contribute their help into this. Okay, the other living beings are equally sentient to us. They suffer just as much. Okay, it's the same suffering. It's the same type of nervous system. Okay, the same exact nervous system in terms of feeling pain. They may not be as good as in math, okay, but they are just as good as giving love, giving compassion, feeling, having mother instinct, which is love, feeling sad, feeling grief, having fear, feeling physical pain, feeling cold, shivering, suffering, the same body functions, same peripheral nervous system, exactly the same in all mammals. So please, people, understand this. You may not have been informed like this. I see this with much sadness that most people have not been informed in terms of compassion, in terms of biology, in terms of knowing what the other living beings need. They have actually been anti-informed by religion. So it's time now to get really informed so that we can make compassionate choices. Very, very important. If there is a will, there is a way, okay? You can make it happen, okay? You don't have to let your animals get cold because you don't have electricity. In any situation, there's always something that you can do to make the situation so that the living beings around you, your family, your farm animals, your dogs and cats don't have to suffer. Okay, don't leave a dog in cold weather. Okay, we're not even in the worst weather zone here. There are like places like Minneapolis, or South Carolina, where it gets so cold. It gets 50 below zero and colder. You cannot leave your dog in a doghouse outside there to the mercy of the elements out there. You can't do this, okay? They suffer a gruesome death, okay? Don't do it. Don't make your animals suffer, okay? Animals get bladder infections too. You know how painful bladder infections are? I've had it many, many times, okay? It's so painful that you scream and bite into your clothes. That's how painful it is. Just continue screaming. I've been through this. So don't make a dog suffer like this. Okay? Don't make any animal suffer like this. They can get all kinds of horrible, horrible illnesses from getting cold, including flus and coughing and lung problems and pneumonia, all extreme suffering and pain. Bladder infections, that's the worst pain there is. They will not even be able to make pee pee anymore because the bladder will be inflamed. Okay, the urinary tracts will be inflamed. That they will not even pass the urine through anymore. This is a horrible way of dying. Absolute horror. This is torture. Don't allow that to happen, people. Okay, that's why I make these videos. Because I'm hoping that someone will see the videos and will act, will become active and find ways to prevent their animals from suffering, in situations like this, with horrific storms, with horrific cold weather, with sub-zero temperatures and so on, and without electricity and all of this horrible, and it just will get worse. It will get worse because of the climate catastrophe that is caused by these greenhouse gas emissions being trapped in the atmosphere, in the upper atmosphere layers. It creates a heat trapping, which creates, this is a whole chain reaction. It's not just that the temperatures will get warmer just gradually. That's not what it does. Okay, it causes temperatures to get colder in some areas in the winter time. Okay, it will create unimaginable storms. It will wipe your house away. Okay, I talked about this before. Take this very seriously. Very seriously. Stop the denial just because you're identified with some kind of agenda, with some kind of belief system. Look at facts. Look at actual science involved here. Okay, so it's a chain reaction. The polar ice caps are melting, the sea levels are rising. There are islands out there in the South Pacific where the people have to be evacuated, where it floods the entire islands, very shallow islands, some of those, where people are living, indigenous people live their entire lives. Okay, they are washed away. Okay? This is horrific. Some of the older people, they don't want to leave. Older people don't want to leave their places where they live their entire lives. Okay, they would rather go down with the flood. Okay? This is all because of global warming, because of climate change, because of this domino effect of one thing leading to the next. Okay, this also has led to bark beetle infestations, because there are some regions where it didn't get as cold as it was supposed to get through evolution. So that did not eradicate bark beetles and their eggs. Okay, so then as soon as spring came, they they had so many of these pest bugs that trees started to die because the bark beetle infestation, get the bark beetles getting into the trees. So entire tree species like the oak trees are dying. They're dying because of a fungal infection, because they don't have the full four seasons anymore in the way they have evolved. So all of these things, there's like a whole range of things where it affects species that are depending on the weather patterns and the weather the weather shifting from one season to another in a gradual way, the way they have evolved. Okay, so this creates an entire range of cascading effects. Okay, one thing leading to the next. Take this into consideration. You know, get informed, get educated, read books on this, read science books, go to Earth Justice, read their blogs. Very important. NRDC, So so many groups out there. Just get informed and be critical. Also know what they're writing and how much of science are they giving out to the audience, and read everything you can find and make sure it's not coming from some religious background, because that's not going to be truth. Religion is not truth. Religion is an agenda, usually to enrich someone, to enrich one person or a few, or some kind of corruption. That's not truth, okay? They want to tell you untruths. They want to keep people ignorant. And not just that, they want to keep people anti informed. This is a fact. I've studied this now for a very, very long time. Trust me, okay? So pay attention to those things. Really, pay attention. Bring your animals into your house, particularly your cats and dogs. They have to be in the house. They have to have a couch. They have to be covered. We have the heater on now here. So, but you know, like at night, for example, Paul turns the heat off, which I think is wrong. We should have the heat on all night long. That way, it keeps it warm and it keeps it the temperature in balance. But he likes to turn all the heaters off. He's always afraid that it could catch on fire or something like this. And so at night, we have to cover. The Papa Dog has his own sleep. He has 3 camo sleeping bags, thicker than this jacket, really, really thick. And when I get up, I always check on him. I always make sure that he is fully covered with that sleeping bag. Sometimes he gets up and moves around and has to shift his body position, right? Like we all do. So he sleeps in bed with Paul, and Paul sleeps in a very thick thermal sleeping bag as well. And Paul will also, when he wakes up, he makes sure the Papa Dog is covered. So, but when Paul is sleeping, he didn't notice it then, and I will notice it that Papa might be uncovered. Then I will take the sleeping bag and put it back over him and tuck it nicely over him, or use another blanket on top of that, depending on the temperature. You have to keep your animals covered. This is very infinitely important. And your farm animals should have a heated barn, okay, at all times. You should have, if you have farm animals, you have to provide for them. You have to have a heated barn. You have to have all that equipment ready. Okay, so every winter you have to heat the barns and you have to keep them clean. You have to clean up. You have to put straw in it. And my mother has horses. I used to help with that. We had to constantly clean it out. It constantly needs cleaning out. Okay, and you can't clean the urine. The urine gets into moves into the soil underneath. But you put fresh straw all over it with a thick layer, fresh straw, so that they can get in there. They can lie down. My mother has Iceland horses. Iceland horses, they grow a fur like this thick, like the woolly mammoths, like really, really, really. They have their own winter coat because they're from Iceland, and so they're evolved like this. So, but still good to have a barn for them, where they can go into, that gives them some protection from the elements. And they like to do this. They like to go in there to sleep. So, and then they all sleep next to each other to keep warm. And, but Other horses do not grow that thick coat. Okay, there are horses like like really large horses, Holstein, or also some of the draft horses like the Brabant get somewhat a winter coat, but not that thick. Okay, so they cannot be out there on the pasture in these sub-zero temperatures. They have to have a barn to go into, and they will go into the barn. You will see. They will go into that. Just right there shows you that they do not want to suffer in the coldness. Okay, and they suffer. They get goosebumps just like we do. They shiver. And that's not fun. That's suffering. Okay. So create a barn for them, heat the barn up in the winter so they can go into the barn and keep everything clean. Okay. So my mission on this planet is to help. Okay. You guys take care.